Tonight, Israel hits back after Iran's attack weeks ago.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes.
The tit-for-tat retaliation between two bitter enemies. The showdown in the American South. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump campaign in Texas.
We're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world.
It's just another example of how he really belittles our country.
And accusations of abuse against educators.
What I've been told is despicable. I insisted that police be involved in the inquiry.
Reports of sexual affairs with minors at a Montreal detention center. And the shocking blow on a BC golf course.
Oh my God!
Police called to the greens in Burnaby. Plus, when East meets West, an iconic World Series. Two storied teams trying for the Commissioner's Trophy.
Here we go. The World Series is underway.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news. Almost a month after Iran sent a barrage of missiles into Israel, Israel is hitting back. Blasts have been heard in Tehran, a city of more than 9 million people. It is not yet clear exactly what was targeted or what was hit. But this assault comes on a day that has already been described as one of the darkest so far in a year of conflict. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Israel vowed to respond, and tonight it did, launching a series of attacks against Iran in response to a wave of ballistic missiles fired at Israel on October 1st.
Our defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. We will do whatever necessary to defend the state of Israel and the people of Israel.
The United States was notified of the strike, but says it did not take part.
Now, it was always agreed upon that they weren't going to strike the oil or the nuclear development facilities that we know of. But we don't know that there's incredible explosions in Tehran itself and actually some others that were reported outside Damascus.
Israel's strikes against Iran follow a series of strikes in Gaza that left dozens dead. More than 70 people were killed in the last day, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. We've heard a lot of talk about a ceasefire, this man says, but nothing. As you can see here, total destruction. Israel says it killed a number of Hamas fighters Thursday and into Friday, but did not respond to the high death toll. At a hospital in Khan Yunis, a young boy cries as the body of more than half a dozen children killed in a strike are placed into body bags. Doctors in the north are warning of hospitals becoming mass graves due to a lack of supplies. Fighting has intensified there, where Israel says it is trying to stop Hamas from regrouping. Today, the UN human rights chief called this one of the darkest moments of the year-long conflict.
The Israeli military is subjecting an entire population to bombing, siege and starvation.
It has also been a deadly week for Israeli soldiers. 5 were killed fighting in southern Lebanon, another 3 killed in Gaza this morning. Tonight, thick smoke can be seen rising over Beirut as fighting between Israel and Hezbollah continues. Despite weeks of strikes and the assassination of its top leadership, Hezbollah was still able to fire a salvo of rockets into Israel today, killing a woman and a teenager. And as the war rages on, efforts to end it continue. Diplomats pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the fighting in Lebanon.
I think this is a moment of importance and urgency that we're working to seize.
Ceasefire negotiations are set to resume in the coming days, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirming a delegation will head to Qatar on Sunday. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
The U.S. Vice President was briefed on the Israeli attack tonight. Kamala Harris is in the Lone Star State, campaigning with some help from Beyonce.
It's time for America to sing a new song. Our voices sing a chorus of unity. They sing a song of dignity and opportunity.
Harris's rival Donald Trump is also in Texas. CTV's Joy Malbit reports.
Celebrities bringing their star power to the campaign trail, the candidates trying to reach voters any way they can.
Today, Kamala is here in Texas to rub shoulders with woke celebrities. Isn't that exciting?
Donald Trump in Texas going after Kamala Harris over border security, ramping up his dark, apocalyptic vision of America as a dumping ground.
What Kamala Harris has done on our border is cruel, it's vile, and it's absolutely heartless. Her policy of importing migrant gangs is a crime against our country. It should disqualify her for even running.
Pushing the unfounded idea that foreign governments are sending criminals to the U.S., Trump's promising mass deportations, and speaking with Joe Rogan, a popular podcaster among young men, hoping to turn them into Trump voters.
Donald Trump has become more confused, more unstable, and more angry.
Kamala Harris calling Trump out. Also in Texas, it's not a state she'll win, but she calls it ground zero in the abortion fight, a state with one of the strictest bans in the nation.
Real harm has occurred in our country. A real suffering has occurred. People have died.
Highlighting Trump's role, Harris out with this painful campaign ad.
First of all, I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade.
You hear Trump's voice as a Texas woman, Andrea, who was denied a life-saving abortion, stares at her scars.
And I will be your protector.
It's part of Harris's closing argument as polls show reproductive rights a top motivating issue, especially among young women.
It will all come down to turnout. Early voting already shattering records. Harris and Trump deadlocked in the battleground states that will decide this election. Morella?
Joy in Washington tonight. And U.S. President Joe Biden made a formal apology today to Indigenous people.
Apologize. Rewrite the history book correctly. I have a solemn responsibility to be the first president to formally apologize to the Native peoples.
A government investigation found more than 950 Indigenous children in the U.S. died in an abusive boarding school system over a 150-year period. There are allegations of abuse at a Montreal detention center for young people. Several educators are being accused of having sexual relationships with minors. Police are now investigating. CTV's Maria Saru reports.
The Regional Health Authority for South Central Montreal confirmed that one of its educators became pregnant and had a child with a detainee.
So certainly when we talk about whose responsibility is it, it's the professional's responsibility to ensure that there's a distance.
A total of 9 educators are accused of engaging in sexual acts with a minimum of 5 minors at the Cité des Prairies Rehabilitation Center for Troubled Youth. The health board says they range from inappropriate social media contact to more severe offenses over the last 2 years. It adds there could be more alleged victims and abusers.
Even one person is one too many. It is unacceptable in all its forms.
An internal investigation was launched following a first report of a sexual act involving a minor in mid-August. Since then, several educators have been suspended or dismissed. Quebec's Social Services Minister reacted today.
Well, what I've been told is despicable. I think that these people, and I insisted that that police be involved in the inquiry.
A spokesperson for the SVPM could not confirm if any complaints have been filed. Experts say the Canadian Criminal Code dictates minors can't consent in these cases.
The age of consent in Canada is 16, but when a person is in a position of authority, that age of consent raises up to 18.
APTS, the union representing workers, said in a statement to CTV the mission of its members is to help young people, not harm them. The full findings of the internal investigation are expected later this fall. Labor relations and human resources experts are also conducting an external investigation. Maria Saru, CTV News.
We have to tell you about a tragedy at a home in Toronto. A baby has died and a young woman is fighting for her life after both were pulled from a burning home. Firefighters found heavy smoke and flames on the back deck and inside the house.
On behalf of all the women and men of Toronto Fire Service, I want to extend our deepest condolences to all of those that have been impacted by this extremely tragic fire, especially involving a young child.
Officials say there were as many as 6 people inside at the time. Most of them managed to get out. We still don't know the cause. A man has been charged with first-degree murder in what police are calling a femicide after a woman was stabbed in broad daylight at an Ottawa park. The victim was related to someone the man was in a relationship with.
They specifically target that family member because she's a woman and because they know that that will have an impact on the male figures within the family.
The 36-year-old man is accused of stabbing her in front of two small children on Thursday. He appeared in court today. Ottawa police define a femicide as the killing of women and girls because of their gender. It's a no-contact sport, but 3 men were injured on a BC golf course.
You towards me? Yeah, you weren't even close. Oh my!
So on this video, a man is seen shouting at one person before swinging his club, and then you hear a loud sound and a golfer seen on the ground. Mounties were called to the Burnaby Greens and took a 43-year-old man into custody. He could face assault charges. There is a small bright spot in the fight against opioid addiction. Fewer Canadians are dying from toxic drugs, but new numbers from BC show that the lives of more women and girls are being lost. CTV's Kamal Karamali is following the story and breaks it down for us. Kamal.
Morella, it's a countrywide crisis, but much of the focal point has been on BC, where 6 people continue to die per day from toxic drugs. The latest figures released this week show in August 187 people died from unregulated drugs, and in September there were 183 deaths. That's roughly 6 deaths per day. So far in the first 9 months of the year, there have been more than 1,700 people who have died from illicit drug use. The total in 2023 was nearly 1,900 deaths. The data also shows a concerning trend. Toxic drug deaths in women is up 60% compared to 4 years ago. But if there is a silver lining to all of this, compared to this time last year, illicit drug deaths overall are down about 8%. If that trend holds steady until the end of 2024, this would be the first time the number has decreased year over year since before the pandemic in 2019. And the Canada-wide numbers also show a similar trend, with the exact 8% drop in opioid toxicity deaths compared to this time last year. Today, the federal minister of mental health and addictions was in Montreal announcing $86 million towards overdose prevention in Quebec.
This funding goes toward innovative projects by organizations who work with people at risk for overdose. And again, we are doing this to save lives.
But according to Health Canada, more than 80% of all opioid deaths take place in Ontario, Alberta, and BC. There's been a push from advocates to focus more resources into those 3 provinces to try and continue to push those overdose death numbers down. Morella.
Kamal, thank you. In a quest to get more family doctors working in Ontario, the province will not allow international students into medical schools beginning in the fall of 2026.
So now it's going to be 100% Canadian, 95% Ontario.
The province will reserve at least 95% of the spots for Ontario residents and the rest for other Canadians. Ontario is also expanding its Learn and Stay grant program, which covers tuition for students who commit to becoming family doctors in Ontario. It's expected to cost $88 million. Authorities in Poland have uncovered a plot to send explosives to Canada and the U.S. The Polish government says 4 people have been arrested, accused of planning to send parcels with hidden explosives and other dangerous materials. The RCMP says it's aware of the arrest, but won't be commenting. Coming up, donation deception.
It's a con job on the public that's donating.
Connections between clothing bins and criminals. Plus, remembering Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead.
Such a long, long time to be gone. Short time to be
All week long, we've been looking into where your used clothes go when you drop them off in a donation bin. Tonight, the battle between Canadian cities and unlicensed operators that has led to threats and intimidation for some city staff. W5 John Woodward with the connection between so-called charities and criminals.
For the city of Markham, north of Toronto, this is a constant battle. City crews removing unlicensed clothing donation bins that seem to pop up again and again. Staff say around 200 times in the past 5 years.
There are many questionable companies that are putting them there.
Former Deputy Mayor Jack Heath says his council was tired of the mess and the disorder, so they identified and removed what he calls rogue bins. Things then took a violent turn. One city staff member was threatened and her tires were slashed.
You shouldn't let people who are making threats, criminal threats, to stop the kinds of initiatives that make for a better city.
It's a con job on the public that's donating.
We met Toronto City Councillor Anthony Peruzza at a bin placed on school grounds without permission.
I did some of my own work and discovered that in most cases, it's not a real charity.
Or even more concerning, a W5 Freedom of Information request shows in the last 4 years, almost 1 in 5 city licenses bear the names of people who have faced criminal charges or are family members of convicted criminals. Bins of people like Pino Sagia, who has drug trafficking and conspiracy to distribute cocaine convictions from the 80s and 90s. He also has a charge from 2013 for smashing in the car windows of a bin industry competitor. He entered into a peace bond as a result. He wasn't listed on the records W5 obtained, but his wife was. She was the director of this charity, whose name is on these bins, but the CRA revoked its charitable status years ago.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Sagia? Speaking.
We reached Sagia by phone to ask him about him and his wife's bin operation.
No, I'm not involved in the bin business for years.
Sagia says that other people are using his old company signs on their bins, and he and his wife are no longer involved.
And when we look at the corporate records, it's your family on the records. I don't know why you keep that insisting I'm still in business. I don't got no idea. Why you keep insisting? It's just because what you're saying doesn't accord with what our research has produced. Now you stop bothering me because of this. Listen, I don't want to talk to you. Call the police and do what the you want. Have a good day. Goodbye.
A situation that Kate Bain of Charity Intelligence says is a sign that something's wrong with the system.
I don't know how the City of Toronto has permitted this bin without doing its due diligence.
Toronto City Councillor Anthony Peruzza says he'll look into whether the city needs to do more.
Is this something that you would want to look into?
I wasn't aware that we are granting actual licenses to people that are in a for-profit kind of activity and allowing people to pretend to be a charity or, to be charitable in some way. And if that is something that we are doing, we should review that.
The city of Markham has removed most of the rogue bins now. Their licensed bins can be spotted by the city logo right on them. Jack Heath says his city stood tall against the threats and cleaned up the industry.
What lessons do you think other cities can learn from how Markham handled the bins?
The most important is go ahead and do it. You can do it.
A call he hopes other cities answer.
That's W5's John Woodward. If you missed any stories from his 4-part series, head to our website, ctvnews.ca. Still to come, a successful splashdown. Astronauts finally make it back to Earth. An E. coli outbreak at McDonald's in the U.S. is making more people sick. 75 people have fallen ill across 13 states. The outbreak is being linked to bad onions on the Quarter Pounder. The hamburger has been pulled from the menu at many American locations. At least one person has died. McDonald's says Canadian restaurants are not affected. 4 astronauts are safely back on Earth after spending roughly 8 months at the International Space Station.
And splashdown.
The SpaceX capsule splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico. The astronauts should have been back 2 months ago, but their stay was extended because of Hurricane Milton and problems with Boeing's Starliner capsule. One of the astronauts was taken to hospital with an undisclosed medical issue, but is said to be in stable condition. His voice rang out from millions of TV screens in the late 70s and 80s. Jack Jones, best known for singing the Love Boat theme song, has died. He was a Grammy winner as well. Jones had been battling leukemia. He was 86. And another sad note from the world of music, Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead has also passed away. Lesh was a classically trained violinist and trumpet player who became the bass player for the legendary jam band. Lesh was a founding member of the group. He passed away today at 84. After the break, 2 legendary baseball teams means a star-studded World Series. With the Blue Jays not in the postseason, baseball fans north of the border must now choose who to cheer for, the LA Dodgers or the New York Yankees. The first pitch of the World Series was thrown earlier tonight in Los Angeles.
Here we go. The World Series is underway.
CTV's Paul Hollingsworth looks back at the storied rivalry and forward to the next chapter in Major League history.
The Yankees and Dodgers have a World Series history that goes all the way back to 1941.
It's an incredible feeling, you know, having 2 historic franchises like this going at it again.
The last New York-Los Angeles World Series was 43 years ago.
It's really, I think, the biggest World Series since that one in 1981. You've got the 2 largest markets, superstars on each side of it.
Shohei Ohtani is leading the way for the Dodgers, Aaron Judge for the Yankees. Rich Griffin says the star power of these 2 teams reminds him of the first World Series he covered in 1978.
And that happened to be a Dodgers and Yankees World Series. And since that time, the perception has been that baseball has fallen off in terms of importance on the world sporting stage.
Ohtani sends one in the air, the other way, back it goes, gone!
And I think the presence of Ohtani is going to make this a very special series.
When it comes to ticket prices, this will likely be the most expensive World Series all time. Single tickets are selling for thousands of dollars. Baseball analyst Steve Phillips expects TV ratings to be through the roof.
In 1981, in that Dodgers-Yankees World Series, the average viewership, 41 million per game. Last year's World Series with the Rangers, 9 million fans watched that.
In their previous 11 World Series showdowns, the Yankees hold an 8-3 advantage over the Dodgers. Baseball fans will soon find out if history will repeat itself. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
That's a wrap on the day. I'm Marella Fernandez. For all of us here at CTV National News, thanks for watching. Good night.